Hey there, friends, and welcome to your Lucid Living Show, where you join and participate with us in our essential conversations with ordinary people achieving the extraordinary. The Lucid Living Show is brought to you and sponsored by the mindfulnessadvantage.com, and our wingman and producer is Andy Brine of hangouttribes.com. Thank you for staying with us for the next hour. My featured guest today is Jessica Dewell, founder of the Infusing Principle, Red Direction, and co-host of the Jess plus Scott plus You show here on Google+. Today, Jessica and I will be exploring and mapping a delightfully unexpected phenomenon and trend in corporate culture and business today, that being a new and sustainable focus on and a new valuation of heart, of spirit, and greater purpose as governing and uniting principles. We'll be bringing Jessica on in just a moment after our opening segment, First Words. All too often, we have had this drilled into our consciousness and into our brains. Excuse me. Heart, soul, and spirit are all considered the third rail of business and corporate culture. At least they were. Well, friends, as we all know, everything is constantly changing and evolving, and quite often those changes emerge in unexpected ways. Daniel Goleman, author of Focus, the Hidden Driver of Excellence, invites us to consider that directing attention toward where it needs to go is a primal task of leadership. There is today an emerging evolutionary trend toward integrating heart, soul, and even spirit into the way we conduct business. From solopreneur to corporate structures and corporate cultures, those who are currently thriving and are positioned to thrive in the future are all mapping and implementing new practices, new programs, and new foundations for interdepartmental cooperations and collaborations, and just basically mindful collaborations and cooperations in general. Can Apple, Aetna, Yahoo, Procter & Gamble, Google, Texas Instruments, Comcast, and AOL all be wrong? They are all taking their own transformational leadership roles in integrating into their corporate culture, management, and employee structures specialized mindfulness trainings that are generating remarkable results. And that just scratches the surface of what you yourself can achieve through mindful focus and directing your attention. The emerging presence and generative nature of mindfulness trainings and programs within business and corporate culture are indeed the most obvious and measurable indicators of a shift away from purely bottom-line strategies to a more organic, authentic evolution of purpose, mission, and business mindset. My featured guest, Jessica Dewell, and I have been enjoying an ongoing conversation regarding the evolutionary shifts emerging in business today. And now we are inviting you to join us in our conversation. Please join me in welcoming our friend Jessica Dewell to the program.
Thank you, George. I'm really excited to be here today, and you're right. We have been having an amazing conversation, and it's really cool to bring it into this forum so that other people can listen and join in and continue the conversation after we're done today.
Yeah, and that's really important and worth risking being repetitive. And that is, friends, join us in this conversation. Get involved, get off the bench and in the game and into the comment stream. So I know that you are developing, Jesse, a new and innovative protocol and program. Your vision is to bring your consultancy and your training to small business and corporations. To whatever extent you can, share with us what your vision is and what the outcomes are that you desire to create for your new clients?
Perfect. Specifically for Infusion Principle, the idea behind that, when Nora Whalen and I got together and we started talking about some of our dreams and our goals and our desire to help other people, and how we bring people together, and what we can learn from each other, and how we do business, because commerce is how we contribute, it's how we earn our living, and it's how we can actually consume to give back to that circle of commerce. So if we can, if we can, we help each other, whether that's collaboration across a cubicle or offices down the hall from each other or different floors, or even virtually, because we have a virtual team or we have virtual connections that we use to brainstorm, work through problems, find solutions. And it's really neat to see that. So Infusion Principles' first objective is to launch the Your Advisory Board online program, which is bringing experts and people within 6 areas of business that have this passion and drive and excitement around a topic to talk about their topic with leadership in businesses of any size, to keep that learning going and understand how each of the pieces really is standalone, yet how they're all connected. Like each one of us stands alone, yet how we're all connected.
You know, it's a really important approach. And I know it also includes a vision and a practice and a protocol of going in, examining whatever the corporate culture or the structure of the business is, and the relationships and interrelationships, and helping, say, the owner, the founder, and upper management to identify the people within their ranks that truly have potential or have an overt ability to take on a leadership role. Yes?
Yeah, and I would shift that up a little bit, because I think each one of us is a leader in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of us are meant to lead companies. Not all of us are meant to lead departments. Not all of us are meant to lead households. Yet we all have something that we're really good at and we naturally gravitate to. And so finding, if we start with the people that are automatically shining in their roles, they, no matter what they do, they light up others as they're going through their days and their weeks. Those are the people to start with, because I think we all have that, and we have amazing resources within our networks or within our organizations that we might just have to shift a little bit to amp up that light, to change that attitude and allow what's inside to explode out, to really help deliver and execute the mission of the whole reason the business exists in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And for me, you know, I'm always curious. You may have heard of me, Curious George, the first space monkey. I'm always curious, and part of my MO in business is, one, maintaining a global vision, but having a curiosity about the nuts and bolts all the way down to the minutia level of how things work in either a management structure and culture or a business culture or anything in general. So my curiosity is, how do we transform any culture, because we're all steeped, all our cultures and our personal mindsets are steeped in a culture, in a world of competition and difference and measurement. And I'm no stranger to the corporate world. I was a hired gun consultant for 3 or 4 years in the computer business before I gave up having a boss and became my own. And one of the things we come up against initially are the inner narratives that have of our employees or management that have nothing to do with our mission or our performing our jobs in an exemplary or extraordinary way. So the question is, how do we inspire an organization and or individuals in management or employees to step out of competition and step into a true experience and practice of partnership and collaboration?
I'm a big believer that we're in this, I don't know what you want to call it. Well, there's a lot of words for it, and there's some really colorful words. We're going to go with like a hurricane at the moment, or a volcano, right? We've got this,
Nice.
we've got all of this stuff happening, and there's all of this energy building and building and building, and there are demands that we as individuals, both as a self and together as a community, are requiring and expecting in our life today. That is in opposition with the way business is traditionally done to deliver a product, deliver a lifestyle, fulfill some sort of brand identification and awareness. And the more that those come together, the closer and the closer we are to eruption. And we've seen it happen in many different facets of life. We're seeing great big shakeups in industries already, and it's going to trickle down to every level. And so, there was this trend of transparency and, oh, we're going to be transparent and we're going to do all of this. But then, number one, people were not transparent, and because I think there was a misunderstanding, some people thought the only way to be transparent was to give away all of your secrets. And I don't think that's really the right way to go, because secrets are important. Understanding there's a little bit of mystique and mysteriousness around what we do adds to the value in what we can do to create a relationship where we can really serve others. And then there was this idea of, and we're still kind of in this, there's a lot of people, oh, we've got to be a social business and there's only one way to be social. Well, businesses have been social forever, so there's really not one way to be social, but we're going through this, what does that mean? And as our technology changes and we're actually, as individuals and as community of people, we are empowered with this technology, what do we do? And how do we use it? And are we using it for good, or are we using it for evil? And a company started, and it doesn't matter if it's a company of one or a company of 5,000 or 50,000 or more, a company started for a particular reason. It was a dream. It was a need that somebody had and realized that other people had that same need, and they wanted to deliver a service in a way that would connect us all together and help each other out. And we lose that when we get lost in all of the stuff that I was just talking about. Mm-hmm. And so, but how do we, right? How do we, we're not going to avoid the eruption, I don't think, but we could probably make it milder, or we could change it and make it more intense for the purpose of our business to get it where we want to go, for the purpose of the teams that we have for where we want to go. Sometimes the more violent the eruption, the better it is. And the more we see, but also it creates a little bit more chaos, and it creates a little bit more unsureness and maybe a little insecurity of all the people that are affected. And I think that it's a very hard thing to do, but if you've got people that are shining brightly around you, if you yourself are shining brightly, meaning what I mean when I say shining brightly, solid, when we are solid in ourself and our belief, and we're okay if we're a little awkward, and if we're okay if we're the only ones that laugh at our jokes, and we're okay when we fall down in public, and maybe after we have lunch we gotta go to the bathroom and floss our teeth or whatever, right? Just the humanness, the idea that we can be awkward and awesome all at the same time is this kind of cool thing that we get to embrace our quirks. And I think when we forget our quirks, we can't be there to lead other people or to support other people. And we also can't receive and see any change.
Indeed. Agreed. I'm going to jump in for a quick show ID here and then speak to what you've just shared. You're watching the Lucid Living Show, No Ordinary Moments. And my guest today is Jessica Dewell, CEO and founder of Infusing Principle, Red Direction, and the co-host of Jess plus Scott plus You show, which is an awesome Tuesday evening show. Now, what I'd love to do is take your concept of volcano and do lay my own interpretation upon that based on experience. And my experience has been in the past, I've been part of corporations and medium-sized businesses that went through massive transformations, either intentional or in one case I worked for a distributor and managed the functions of an a computer peripherals distributor that was bought by a larger East Coast distributor. This was in Texas. Change equals the volcano in some respects, yes?
Sure, let's go that route. Okay.
All right. One, as human beings, we resist change, and neurologically, we're wired for familiarity and sameness. So there is a neurological, neurophysical, and neurochemical resistance to change, whether it's positive or negative. But also the reality is when the pieces move on the chessboard, when you move the furniture or you move into a brand new office, any time we embrace change on a personal or organizational level, yes, it's perceived as chaos, but as the pieces are moving, we have a great opportunity to institute and integrate changes that are generative, that create a new foundation, a new direction, or at least an adjusted trajectory. And so it's our job as either consultants or visionaries or managers or a person even who's a part of a collaborative group within the structure of a business to, one, hold the vision of the outcome of the change, and two, to express our leadership skills the best way we can, to be in the moment and be authentic and operate from our hearts rather than resistance or fear to change. When we're able to harness those energies consciously in the moment, we can reduce the chaos or the perception or experience of chaos and create a really clear new direction to get everyone behind. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to start with the vision holder. Every company needs a vision holder, and most of the time that is either a board of directors or the founder, owner, or CEO, but not all of the time. Sometimes that vision holder could be the unexpected person, the most unexpected person. It could be the person who answers the phone with a smile on their face no matter what is going on in the world around them, because they know everybody who they're going to be talking to in a time of change is going to need that grounding, that connection point. And I think that there needs to be more emphasis put on understanding a role, because we systemize things. And this is a place where I feel like there's disruption. We systemize things, and we systemize the people out of the process, and that is going to continue to create additional energy that is going to eventually result in interruptions of some sort. So what if we took those processes, and what if we really embraced the people that go in them? And when we can really help put context around, this is what I would call quality. When we can put quality information around a role, it allows people to step up and go, okay, this role is my responsibility, not, oh, I am just fulfilling certain steps and pressing these buttons and responding to these emails. So it is all in the setup. It is all in the presentation, but it allows us to have every single person in every single role, whether they're an employee, whether they're a contractor, whether they're a partner, whether they're a volunteer, to really figure out what they do and how they can bring themselves to it, to also be a vision holder. So it turns out, just like the old adage, it takes a community to raise a child. Well, it takes a community to raise a business, to fulfill the purpose of that business and the mission of that business to give to the world. So I would say that directly relates to the second of expressing leadership skills, allowing the natural desire for us to own something and stand behind something and believe in something to come out. And there was someplace else.
That's a huge force of nature, by the way.
It is, and it takes a lot of courage from people who tend to want to hold on to control to let go of that and to change it. And I believe that the more successful companies that we see that are embracing all of these changes, and when it comes down to the people in those positions, I mean, we also companies can only do so much to set the stage for people to show up and do what it takes. And I got to put the onus on every single one of us watching, no matter what our role is, no matter what role we've played in the past. It is on us to show up and contribute. We're handed a role, we're handed a responsibility, and it is on us to contribute to the larger good that way. And if we come to work in a bad mood, it ripples out. If we don't really like what we do and we can't find the gift or the value in what we're doing because it doesn't align with our passion, well, maybe it does, but we have to turn, it's like magic 8-ball, shake it up and try again. Let's because we're in every position we have for a reason. We're in every place and we have every moment for a reason. While I don't necessarily believe in divine destiny, I do believe we get to make our own destiny, but I also believe it is our connectedness of people that we kind of put ourselves, we kind of get that karma, what goes around comes around. It's more than just karma. This is a lesson we need to learn to show up more, to support others even more, because the more we talk to each other and the more open dialogue that there is, the more we're able to elevate each other. And that's something that I think is a pretty big change.
Agreed. Great points. What I'd love to add is if you're waiting on somebody else, you're backing up or backing out of the game. If you're projecting upon someone else or the business itself, you're really not contributing. You're just in a narrative that's negative and not generative. First and foremost, the invitation is to show up. Again, do your best. Make a commitment to be excellent in whatever your job responsibilities are, and then be in a collaborative mindset. One of the most amazing things that happened, I was a panelist on Christine L. Bowen's show, and we had 9 people. You were with me. And in the after-show green room, I made sort of a counterpoint that my reality, the perception I had, was there were 9 panelists with completely differing views and life experiences, but in the context of our conversation, we were all in agreement. So, you know, when it comes to fulfilling a mission statement or a vision for a business, we don't have to be totally in agreement. But when it comes to the outcome, we can be, and we can collaborate and not only create team outcomes, but true, authentic partnership outcomes. Now, team outcomes, there's a level of enrollment, but when you move into partnership, you move into the realm of vision and heart and spirit and soul. I think that's the deepest expression of that, and I think that new and deeper expression is what is resurrecting businesses and business cultures today. And as I said in my open, there are a lot of businesses and business cultures that are either emerging as thriving under this new auspice, or they are positioned, they are repositioning themselves right now to have a different approach. What they're realizing is no matter how big you are or how big or well known your brand or your product is, unless your motivation is to resonate with one person and behave as if you're talking to one person, then your traction is getting less and less. People have been oversold, overstimulated, and we're sophisticated enough to know when someone's marketing to us or whether they're having a conversation with us. Jump in.
I'm going to go to a conversation I was having yesterday, and it was a little, it goes back to the point of we can all want the same outcome, and we can all believe there are different ways to get there. So we're having this conversation, and some of these conversations that I am a part of can be very difficult. We seem to be wandering down this path, or we lose sight, or it gets too big, or it gets too small, or, you know, there are so many things that can happen in the process of conversation. And the vision holder had a very specific way of doing things, and in this case, I was the vision holder. And the way all of the solutions that were coming up were totally not in alignment with this vision. And it was really hard for me to do this because I am human just like the rest of us. But what came out of this conversation was I was like, okay, you know what? At some point, if the vision is actually blocking progress, we have a problem. So I went back to my magic 8 ball, I shook it up, and I said, you know what? We're not going to agree on this. How about if we go get it done and let's just see what happens? We get each other's points, we understand where we're trying to go, but we're not going to agree. So let's just let's just work from the outcome and not in this moment. And we did the shift, and we were able to move the conversation and continue to keep going. And I think that it takes a lot of courage to talk about the fact that we actually have those conversations. Two, I think that it's something that we can be aware of and actually practice and go, okay, we're not going to come to an agreement, but we don't need to, because you're you and I'm me, and in the end, we want what's best. And if we're showing up with intention, we can have those difficult conversations.
Indeed.
We can have that, right? And that's a big piece for me to see in an organization as small or as large. And I actually think the smaller organizations have a different kind of wrestling with that, because they're used to having their own way. They're used to being the vision holder, and everybody's going to do it the way they want. And it's not always the case. And in larger organizations, that's where I think the fear comes in. We've got this fear of, oh, I'm going to lose control, or oh, somebody's going to be better than me, or oh, whatever that is. Well, that is a self-limiting conversation. And when that is controlled, there's going to be a different kind of eruption from the disruption.
Right, exactly. I'm going to jump in and remind everyone that you are watching the Lucid Living Show. I'm your host, George E. Green, and we're talking with Jess Dewell, founder and creator of the InfusionPrinciple.com. And we're talking about bringing heart and spirit and soul back into business, and whether you're a entrepreneur, a solopreneur, all the way up into corporate culture. And Andy, I'd love to bring you in because you're doing business in several different levels here with your HOA show with Wayne Metter, but also with Hangout Tribes. And what is your experience? What's your point of view in terms of really keeping heart and soul and spirit in the center of what we're doing?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to speak and share my thoughts as well. It's been interesting to hear what Jessica said, because I'm in complete alignment with what she's saying in terms of vision and purpose and allowing that to be your driver. But when working in large teams and like not working individually on your own, but with many people who are focused on exactly the same thing, I think it's important to look within ourselves, to define our purpose, define our vision, and obviously share that with others as well. Because working with Wayne, let's say as an example, we constantly look at where we're going, what we're focusing on, and what we want to achieve from an internal perspective and also from an external perspective. So I think it's important to look at collaboration and partnership as bringing everyone together and not focused individually on yourself, but as an organisation where you want to move your vision and drive forward. So.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your bringing your heart and your point of view to our conversation. Jess, I want to circle back to the old school and outdated mindset of competition and right and wrong, and how I think I and most of us have experienced in some business structure at some point in time where there is a dominant experience of the politics of personality. And I see those things happening in the vacuum of vision and leadership from the top or from middle management. What do you see as a potential catalyst to create the change, whether it's disruptive or not? How can we individually bring that shift and change through our own mindsets? And then how can someone like you, who's a consultant or a hired gun, come in and infuse that new mindset into, again, what we're steeped in, which is a culture of competition and judgment?
So I already mentioned quirks, so we're going to leave that one there. I also already mentioned quality, which we didn't get to go into a lot, but I think the conversation around it was really, it provided a good illustration of that. So the third one is questions. Now, when I say the word question, I do not mean questioning. No, 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 no. I mean curiosity. And there's a big difference. There's the not doing what you're told just because, or questioning the motive because you may not agree with it, and you've got that, and that's questioning, that's rationalizing, that is, it's a little bit, it's more coming from a place of judgment, whereas curiosity, okay, I see, so let's add some context, or I hear, whatever you lead with primarily, but what is the context of that? Where did that thought come from? What was the driver? Tell me about the experiences that collectively added up to this way of thinking or to this thought, which is very different in the sense that we can spend time and really basically be judgment. No, you've got to tell me more. I can't buy into this unless I know the big picture. If your vision is changing or your expectation of me is changing, I might not be able to show up anymore. And I call bullshit on that right there, because we can, but therein lies, when I encounter that, I'm like, oh, a little bit of self-limiting. Okay, that's fine. So something really crazy happened to this person, and that's that piece of control. That's that piece of I'm protecting myself. But how do we move past that and into I'm protecting everybody, or I'm giving to everybody, or I'm caring for everybody? And that's where the curiosity piece comes in. And that also goes back to I've got to own my quirks, and I have to be really sure and solid in myself that I'm going to show up and give quality me so that I can have this curiosity, because it's only when we listen that we get to elevate others. It's when we talk that we allow others to elevate us. And so when we're talking about things like bringing in somebody like me into an organization, all I do is listen a lot, and I hear a lot, and I watch, and I think that having that third set of eyes can bring an amazing amount of insight. The thing is, most companies, big or small, don't want to pay for just that. So how do we get past the report, and how do we get to the action? Mm-hmm. And that's the part that I think is really important, because I'm all for that. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to listen. I'm going to tell you what I see. But the purpose is not to give you a report of how to change or what needs to change. The purpose is to show you what you actually have and how amazing it is, and how do you leverage that more. And that's not a report. That's a conversation. And those are specific action items, specifically revolving around the questions that come up and the experience of what the person I'm directly working with, whether that's the owner, the leader, the CEO, the department head, whomever, what was their purpose of calling in the first place? Seeking help outside of the organization. Mm-hmm. Then what is the goal of the customer? Because there's a gap somewhere in some of these. And the third is, what is the experience that is trying to be given, and the ideal versus the actual, and where is that? Because realistically, everybody that joins the company and is hired can have the skill set or does have the skill set. But if they're not willing to show up, we got to shake their magic 8 balls and help them out, and maybe adjust and scoot them around a little, because there's no need in great big change. There's no need in a lot of reports that'll go on the shelf and go, yeah, okay, we kind of knew that already, and now we paid you all this money, but we're not actually going to do anything. And it's, well, what can you do? And from the listening and from the experience back to the mission of the company, what are the immediate things that can change? Sometimes that's procedural. Sometimes that's the actual people, because there are times the people that are in the positions just really don't belong there, and the visions, there's too much of a gap, and there's no way to close that gap, and we need to honor them and honor ourselves and part ways. And then there's the whole idea of, so somebody might come to work with green hair or wigs or really crazy fancy, fingernails or outlandish clothes, but they have value and they bring smiles to people's faces, and their presence is additive, and their approach and response to the role and the heart that they bring to the role that they have been given, the responsibility that they take, can be amped up with a little shift. And that's really where the action can come out. And what are some of the outcomes of that, George? I mean, for me, when I see that, the success rates of projects go up, the implementation of new ideas is faster, turnover is lower. So they're not necessarily, I'm going to add this feature and I'm going to make this much more money, or I'm going to restate how I do such and such so I can charge for it to make more money. And there's value in those short-term things. That's also very limiting. So everything that we're talking about today really is the longer vision. So yes, all those short-term vision, they can't go away. And if you try and run a business without that, there's going to be a problem. I believe there's short-term necessity of engagement and conversation, and just seeing how do we want to change our experience, knowing what that long-term experience is, how each person involved adds to it, and then going out and delivering it.
Right.
Maybe not in agreement of the external vision, not necessarily in the agreement of how each thing is done, because debate is good.
Yeah. Well, and the thing I want to really impress upon everyone here live and in the replay is that our discussions, the map we're creating and exploring here, both Jess and I, is scalable. Quite often, at least half the time today, we've been speaking in terms of creating a new map in larger organizations and corporate cultures. These same approaches apply all the way down to a single individual, maybe someone like myself who is an empire of one with my various endeavors and businesses. The ability to have, a conversation, a different conversation internally, one that's generated through mindfulness with an intention of really resurrecting our original conversation, which is the one we have with ourselves in our hearts. And then from that space, approach our business, our relationships. We hear a lot, and there's a cultural model here on the Plus where personal relationships are not only emphasized, it is the core principle on Google Plus. Whether it's connecting with people, and then the evolution of that is using the video technology, whether it's private hangouts or public shows like the ones that Jess and Scott and I have. So the idea is scalable. The practice is scalable. What's integral to transforming ourselves, our relationships, our businesses and cultures, again, is enrolling someone like Jess, enrolling a coach, a mentor, a trainer, or identifying resources, books, and trainings that can open your viewpoint, that can enhance and or transform your mindset so that you can rise above the old culture, the old programming of competition and judgment and inner negative narratives, and enter into some new high agreements and collaborations. So we're winding down to the last segment. Jess, how can people find you? And any final words of inspiration and a call to inspiration and action? You got a couple of minutes.
All right, George. Well, thank you for having me on the show. I know our conversation is going to continue after today, so anybody who wants to join our conversation, my first call to action is grab a cup of tea, call up George, call up me, call us up together. Let's sit down and keep this conversation going. Mine happens to be in a cup a different kind of cup this morning. I was on the go. But yes, cheers to the tea. We've got to let this steep. And I would challenge you to find one of your quirks that maybe makes you feel a little awkward. And we're going to change this up a little bit. What's the one thing that you do that you feel really good when you do it, but you also feel really awkward, like nobody gets what's going on? That's the one thing I would say. Bring that to every interaction that you have. Bring the idea of that. Bring the smile that it puts on your face. And it doesn't have to come out. It doesn't have to be part of the interaction, but to do that. Because when we show up, we're going to be able to give more. We're going to be able to listen, to elevate those around us, so that when we are asked questions, we're able to receive that reciprocal gift of the receipt of being elevated as well. Mm-hmm. It's really a cycle. And infusionprinciple.com is the best place to start to reach me. Also, just Google me, come to George's page, circle me, follow me, whatever you want to do. I'm basically anywhere you want to be. Let's have that conversation. And remember, the question without judgment. We're talking about curiosity. Yeah. We're talking about the curiosity side of things. So to me, if we take our quirks, if we bring our quality, if we show up and we're really there and we're curious, we really do have what it takes to make a change. And you're right, George, it is scalable because processes are based off of size, and the infrastructure actually changes based off of how workflows occur based off of the size of a business. What we are talking about makes all that easier because everything falls into place. It still requires work, and it could be very difficult, yet it's one of those things where the road is open to us and the right people come along to help us answer those questions and filter what we need to filter to have the success that we want.
Indeed. Thank you, Jess Dewell. And again, remember, we're inviting you to stay in the conversation. What that looks like initially is share this program with your friends. Jump in the comments. If you're watching in replay, we monitor comments after the shows, and we will remain engaged with you. And further engagement and curiosity is find Jess Dewell at infusionprinciple.com or find me at themindfulnessadvantage.com. We're happy to talk with you and offer up a complimentary conversation and consultation so that we can entertain curiosity together and discovery. So again, my thanks to Jess Dewell for being my featured guest. And now it's time for our final segment, Your Moments in Mindfulness. First and foremost, it's our inner narratives, our consent to what we believe is real and to what is possible that forms, filters, and shapes our reality. In order to successfully bring the authentic alchemy and power of heart, soul, and spirit into any aspect of our lives, and especially into our business and corporate relationships, we are required to take on the roles of leadership, and of the visionary. In this way, we integrate what we desire, our vision for a better world, with our evolutionary upgrade of what we know and believe is possible. So our invitation to you is dare to dream, friends. Then have the vision, conviction, and certainty to make your dreams manifest. Thanks for watching. I am your host, George E. Green, and this is the Lucid Living Show. We'll see you next time, friends. Bye. We're still on, and we've lost our producer.
Do you
All
have
right,
the
Jess.
button? Hi. Hey.
I do not have the button.
Okay. Well, maybe he'll come back in a minute. Should we do a post green room show right here for the people that are hanging out?
Absolutely. We're in the green room after show.
That's right. Now, so see, This is we're taking our 8 ball and we're shaking it up. I'm telling you.
Indeed. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so I need to know, what was the tea in your cup today? Or is it coffee?
It was a nice, dark, stout coffee
Mm-hmm.
with coconut milk instead of cream
Ooh.
and stevia as a sweetener.
Mm-hmm.
And I make my coffee in a French press that my sister gave me for my birthday several years ago. And that's one of my guilty pleasures is, yes, I am caffeinated.
How funny.
So,
That's really cool. I'm caffeinated too. Mine's green tea this morning. I had a really nice cup of tea. It was a detox, so it was this wonderful blend of herbs and flowers this morning. And then out I ran, and then I was like, oh, I am going to want something a little warm to sit down
mhm,
because while it's not freezing here, and it's definitely not cold as it is in some places, it was cold enough I wanted another cup of hot tea.
right. Well, and we've got snow on the ground
Whew.
here, and it's nearly above freezing. Uh, but well, warm drink is something to start in the morning. I mean, some of the Tibetan monks actually have hot water and lemon, and
Oh, yeah?
that is their tea.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm not drinking coffee, I use my French press and I use fresh ginger root and some ground herbs, ginger and turmeric and cayenne, fresh lemons and stevia, and that is rocket fuel for your morning.
I have been, thank you, by the way, I have been drinking a full cup of the ginger root tea straight up, and you're right, it is incredibly strong, but boy, oh boy, does it cut through whatever. I mean, not only is it probably good for the entire body, as you told me, but the other piece I said probably is because it really cuts through any mind fog. If I need to get focused fast, I am pulling out a cup of ginger root tea. That's for sure. That's what I
So
learned from the
so
other day.
so you got hang on.
Sure.
I'm sending a message to Andy. I'm inviting him to press the. There you are, Andy.
Hey, Andy.
Yeah. Are you able to end the recording?
Yeah, I am. I'm really sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Well,
Hey,
there's.
it's all good. We were just talking about tea. It was a little extra bonus for everybody. I mean, heck, we could keep talking about experience because I've defined the four corners of experience recently, and to go with some of that stuff, which is exciting.
And I still see a live yellow button at the top.